Hello, friends, and welcome to today's episode. Today's episode features Bjorn Lestrud. Now, get ready for an incredible story. Get ready for a story that goes through a man's life who lived a very ordinary life and then had an incredible spiritual awakening through the use of sacred plant medicine and shamanic practices to come to understand his own spiritual power. And he demonstrates this power. I think you're going to be really impressed by his life and his wonderful authenticity in the way that he brings his story to you. And so, welcome to Mindful Mutiny today. Welcome to the Mindful Mutiny podcast. I'm Jeremy, and I founded Mindful Mutiny as a podcast, a community, and a commitment to live a high-frequency life. I want to help you cultivate purpose, clarity, and structure. I'm an experienced therapist, transformational coach, former executive, and psychedelic specialist. Go to mindfulmutiny.com to subscribe to my newsletter, schedule a consultation, or just to get more information about what my coaching can do for you. If you support positivity, I'd be honored to have you as a Patreon subscriber. On Patreon, there will be bonus material and a community of Mindful Mutiny fans that believe in human potential and living a high-value life. Also, check out the link in the description for my spring store with merchandise that supports the Mindful Mutiny podcast. Mindful Mutiny is sponsored by Exponential Intelligence. Exponential Intelligence teaches you how to raise your consciousness and be the most wise, evolved, and brilliant version of yourself. See the link in the description of this podcast to learn more about this incredible sponsor. Mindful Mutiny is also sponsored by Pachamama Sacred Paths. Pachamama's mission is to facilitate individual awakening through sacred plant medicine, spiritual retreats, and ancient teachings, ultimately contributing to the collective ascension of consciousness. With over a decade of experience hosting retreats, Pachamama is distinguished by its commitment to ancient wisdom, shamanic practice, and ethical care for participants. See the link in the description of this podcast to learn more about this incredible sponsor. And now, on to the show. Welcome, Bjorn Lestrud, to the Mindful Mutiny podcast. Bjorn, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Today's guest is Bjorn Lestrud, a sound healer, storyteller, and founder of Blue Dragon Healing. After years of high-performing sales success left him unfulfilled and battling chronic health issues, Bjorn embarked on a transformative journey towards authenticity and healing. His path has been shaped by encounters with ancient shamanic healing, plant medicine, and biofield tuning, leading him to develop his flagship program, Primal Path. Through his work, Bjorn has helped others reconnect with their true selves, guiding them towards emotional clarity, spiritual growth, and authentic expression. On today's episode, Bjorn will share his powerful story, offering insights and practical tools for transformation that will inspire listeners to embrace their own healing journeys. Bjorn, you and I have had a couple of cancellations. I've been on your podcast. We've both been sick. We're finally here. I'm really excited about hearing your whole story. So do you mind if we kind of start at the beginning with where did you grow up?
I grew up in a town in Wisconsin, raised on a farm. Place is called Hammond. It was a family farm, had been there one previous generation. My grandfather started the farm.
Okay. All right. And so in Wisconsin, what was your career path? What were you headed towards?
Well, I never wanted to be a farmer. Part of that, I couldn't say exactly why. Part of it was that I didn't always get along with my father so well. He sort of represented to me an authority figure, but caused me to rebel against authority, you could
Okay.
say. Like, so in school, I got into a bunch of trouble. I was skipping class and driving around smoking weed. And I think there was a semester in high school where I skipped so many days of class when my or a report card arrived in the mail. I had skipped like 1/3 of the days for that semester. My parents were so upset.
So
They had no
you were
idea.
definitely you were definitely on the Ivy League path.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. I managed to get into a decent school though, just because I did well on my standardized tests and sort of gave a last ditch effort my final year of high school to show that I could perform. And so yeah, I got into school uh, from there. But as far as a career, I guess I didn't really put much stock or thought into that until I was out of college. College itself for me, I mean, I majored in business and I studied international business. Um, Business part was more just being practical, thinking, well, that would be the most likely way for me to get a job. And the international part was for my own interest to keep me more engaged and draw a wider perspective out of it. But in truth, I was almost as much of a slacker in college as I was in high school. Ditched class, went out and partied. Oh man, it was a mess. I somehow graduated though.
Okay. All right. And so, where did you end up going from there?
Well, right out of college, what I wanted to do was find a job. That was what's on my mind. And I struggled to do that. I was looking for months over the summer after graduation. Nothing, nothing, nothing. So one day I kind of threw my hands up in the air and I said, well, I'm just going to go to the library and find a book about how to make money and start from there. So I went to the library and was scanning the different books about money, and I came across Rich Dad Poor Dad. Once I started reading that, something definitely clicked within me, and I got really excited. I remember after the first book of the series, the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, I went online to see if that author, Robert Kiyosaki, had written any other books. When I discovered he had, I mean, I threw that book, I just slammed it down on the floor and I ran to my car and went straight to the bookstore about 30 minutes drive away and I bought like several more books. And I was trying to read the book, one of them, while I was driving home. Didn't want to wait. But ultimately, I didn't become an entrepreneur right then. I did get a job, but that books, they really did influence me and put me on more of a sales oriented career path than I
Yeah.
probably otherwise would have pursued.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you ended up getting into sales for a little while and it wasn't really your cup of tea.
Well, a little while, I guess that depends on your perspective of time because I feel like I've been in sales in one way or another for about 17 years now. Uh, my first foray into the world of sales was at a financial services company back in 2008. And I was a financial advisor, but it was like in an inside sales job where I was only dealing with existing clients for the company. It was a great way to learn without having to do like a knock on doors type of a job. But ultimately, I moved on within that company into a different role where I was dealing with angry customers who had a lot of money. It was basically for high value accounts that were leaving the company. There was a small team within, it was Ameriprise Financial, so like a large financial firm. We had a small team of us, about 8 of us, that were in charge of convincing these customers that had already decided to move their money to keep it. So it involved both outbound and inbound. And I had to basically, in one conversation, take someone from thinking that we were the devil to genuinely liking me and deciding that they were going to keep their assets at the company.
You have to be pretty skilled to pull that off.
It does take some natural talent to do well at that for sure. And I had discovered that I had that talent, but it also took a refinement of skill to learn how. The first call I remember I took there when I was new, this woman was upset, and I don't remember exactly what I said to her. It wasn't anything bad, but she must have sensed some kind of weakness or something on the other side of the phone. She just started screaming at me, and she did not let up for several minutes. And that was the only time after that I never let anyone do that to me ever again. Because I realized that, hey, I am not the cause of this person's anguish. Therefore, I am not going to be the receptacle of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sorry, keep going. Yeah.
Well, it was a super interesting job in the sense that most of the stuff within financial services, it's a really dirty, dirty industry where the alignment of profits and incentives are not really truly connected between the people selling the financial products and the people buying them. Case in point, when I was in that job, probably 99 times out of 100, when these people were moving their money out, it was because they had established a relationship with an advisor from another firm who told them that they should move the money over and invest it in a new product. And almost every single time, that new product turned out to be a worse idea for them than just leaving the money where it was financially. Because a lot of the products that pay the most in commissions tend to actually be the worst for the consumer.
Of
And
course.
I was very disillusioned by it, all of it. I hated
Yeah.
it. But at least I was kind of on the right side of things when I was in that job, uh, in a way. And so, anyhow, I had to really learn how to convey a point of view, uh, and get people to listen to me in a relatively short period of time, while making a connection with them. And that skill has definitely been very valuable to me throughout my life since then. But I did get to a point where I was making really good money in that job. In fact, I was performing so well, I could have taken, seemed the last full year I worked there, I could have taken the last 3 months of the year off and I still would have been the number one sales rep on that team. And I had this swanky high-rise condo apartment downtown that was within a short walk of the downtown office where I worked. And so I would go home, walk home for lunch and relax. And uh, there were a lot of things that people would say, "Oh yeah, you're living the life." However, there was something missing to me, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I started studying personal development again. I had been studying that since I was about 19, 20 years old back in college. But first, I started reading The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, The Alchemist, stuff like that. That was my initial foray into the world of personal development. But now, suddenly, I was starting to study Bob Proctor. And I got into this program that he was had put together called the Success Puzzle. Uh, the day four of the Success Puzzle was a section all about paradigms, which was totally new concept to me at the time. This idea that we get imprinted with the patterns, beliefs, thoughts of the other people had never crossed my mind to that point. And so it was a revelation. not in the moment of reading it when I studied it, but the next day. So, for those who don't know, Bob Proctor uses this thing called the stick person concept, or he used, rest in peace, Bob. He, the stick person concept it gives you a diagram to help represent how the mind works to sort of bring order to the mind, right? And there's this circle representing the mind with a line across the center of it. The top half of the circle is conscious mind, bottom half subconscious mind. And then below that big circle of the mind, there's another little stick, and then a very tiny circle at the bottom represents the body. So on the part about paradigms, they had altered the stick person diagram so that the top of the mind circle was empty. There was no protection there. And so it showed sort of this infant baby stick person head with no top surrounded by all of these adults, and all of their thought forms were just piling directly into this head. And so when I went into work the next day, there came a moment where I was back at my desk and I decided to do an exercise with myself. It was three questions that I asked. One, what's my most painful memory? Two, what am I most grateful for right now? And three, would I have number two if I had not experienced number one? And so my most painful memory at the time, it was something that was recurring and coming up for me a lot. It was a memory of this time when I had been bullied when I was 15 or so in school. The thing I was most grateful for, I can't remember exactly. It had something to do with the intangibles that I had developed in my career. And then I made the connection that I wouldn't be where I was if I hadn't experienced this thing. And what happened was, in my mind's eye, I saw that the baby stick person from the paradigm chart with the open head, I saw that image of that flip upside down and all these thought forms start to spill out of the head. Like the thought forms were kind of represented by like squiggly lines. They were representing these thought forms and they were like almost like alive, like moving out of the head. And when I saw that, tears just started gushing down my face. Like very surreal though, because I'd never really experienced crying like that before. All crying I had ever experienced was like, oh, I feel sad about something. I'm gonna cry, and then might probably get some tension in my throat or my face when I'm letting go of that emotion. But this was like total relax, uh, release.
Yeah.
And so it was right at the end of the day and people were leaving. So I stood up to leave and I'm walking out and the water doesn't stop. And I'm outside and it's snow on the ground, snow coming down. And I just start walking and I go maybe 20 blocks. I, I'm just so swept up in the euphoria of it all. I don't even know where I'm going. I felt kind of like I was floating. And just kept going and this whole thing this sort of it was like this peace, the sense of deep peace right in the center of my chest. It lasted for several hours and I came back into work the next morning and I realized that all of a sudden I was way more sensitive to other people's energy than had been before. Just being in the building where I worked was giving me a stomach ache. And that stomach ache lasted the entire day until I left, and then it went away. And it started happening every day. I'd go in, stomach ache, I'd leave, it would go away. So I'm like, I need to get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. And so getting out of there, what was your ticket out of there?
Hmm.
How did you do it?
I initially was a financial thing. I made some bets in the market. I bet I did like a double long on the price of silver in my 401k, which was a self-managed 401k, which I was able to do because I was a licensed advisor, so I could actually invest it in whatever I wanted for the most part. And so I bought silver at like $15 an ounce, and it went to like $50 an ounce in about 4 months. And I was double long on it, and I had my whole 401k in it. And so I uh, I just got to a point where I was like, okay, there's enough money here. I'm cashing out, and I'm leaving this and getting the hell out of Dodge. And so I did, and I spent after that job. I spent several years just trying to figure out how to make it online to pursue something that I felt in total alignment with the energy of. And I had several different projects. I was trying multi-level marketing stuff. I was trying online marketing. I at one point create co-created a platform for like a marketing lead generation platform for coaches with someone else. Nothing really caught any steam or worked out, and I started running out of money, and I went back to another job for a few years. At that point, to like a software sales was much lighter energy than the place I had worked before in financial services, and I needed a job, so I went back there for a few years, and then kind of a similar thing happened where like I need to get out of here, and then I started piling money into crypto, and then the crypto took off, so I left. And then I actually started traveling the world. I traveled the world for like 5 years, lived in like 15 different countries. There's one summer where I spent the whole summer microdosing on mushrooms and going around Europe by train or bus.
That sounds blissful.
It was. And interesting thing about that too is most of my life up to that point, all of my life, I had always struggled with things that involved a lot of hand-eye coordination. I never knew why. Best I could come up with was maybe I was slightly nearsighted in one eye and it was throwing off the vision of both eyes. But when I was microdosing on the mushroom, within the first week, I had some really vivid, crazy opening experiences, and I realized that I had been going through my whole life without really hardly any depth perception. And all of a sudden, the medicine was opening me up physically. So my actual physical perception and reality shifted dramatically of how the world actually looked and felt. And this happened while I'm in one of the most beautiful places that you could be in with amazing architecture and things to look at. It's really awesome. So I spent like 3 months just like going around Europe, living in different places. But ultimately, where things really started to accelerate on my journey was when I got to Tulum in Mexico. My friend had invited me there, and it had been on my bucket list of places I wanted to visit. I heard some cool things, and I heard it kind of had a hippie vibe, and I thought that sounded kind of fun, and that it was like a spiritual community, and I hadn't really lived in a spiritual community before, and I found it rather attractive. And now we're in peak COVID time, and that was one of the few places that was known to have fewer restrictions for masking and that sort of thing. And I just preferred to be in an environment where I had more freedom of movement. So that was a big part of the reason why I went there. When I got there, my friend, within a couple of days, he hurt his foot and his toe got like severely bruised. The toenail was black, totally black, and it was gonna fall off. I mean, it was did not look good. I see him a couple of days later and he tells me, look at my foot. And I looked at his toe and the thing was totally normal. There was no black and blue, nothing. Like it looked like nothing had ever happened.
Wow.
And I said, how is this possible that this happened? And he said, well, I went to this ceremony called the light portal and it healed me. And apparently, he had been lurking around a juice bar and found some girls that were talking about some, ceremony they went to, and he used that as a segue to talk to them. And then he ended up going to this thing. It was a shamanic type of ceremony that kind of drew from a variety of different traditions, kind of a melting pot of experiences. So anyhow, he invited me to go the next week because he was going to go back after his first experience. And I said, why wouldn't I? Let's go. So I get to this place and we're in a room with maybe 20 other participants. Everyone's lined up around the outside of the room. And we each have a mat on the floor for laying down. And the facilitators, there's maybe 4 or 5 facilitators, start putting us through different processes. One facilitator is leading us through what she called biodynamic breath work, where you're doing open mouth breathing,
Yeah.
doing uh, like qigong type movements, but maybe some yoga stuff sort of mixed in. Uh, and then eventually it's all laid out on our backs on the ground on these mats where we would keep in open mouth breathing, and the facilitators would then come around and do energy work, touch work on all of us. And so at this point, I can hear one of the facilitators beating on a drum, someone else is chanting. There's people, some of the participants here and there. I can hear someone crying, someone screaming. Like, we're talking about a pretty intense atmosphere. And
Wow.
so the one of the facilitators, her name was Ina. She was this Indonesian Muslim woman that was from this like long lineage of Muslim healers. She came up to me and started working on me, and she's this tiny little woman, but wherever she was digging in her fingers, it hurt tremendously. And it was like she knew exactly. They say the doctors have this expression like, you poke until it hurts and then you keep going and because you found the spot. She was finding these spots in her own way and it hurt like the dickens. I was close to screaming, but I didn't. Anyhow, she finishes whatever she
That's
was
right.
doing on me.
Be a man. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like my father and my father's father, they were very, very stoic men.
Yeah.
I remember there was a story about my grandfather where he fell off the roof of his house, which is not a low-hanging roof, but a pretty high up roof. Fell off the roof of his house, landed on the cement stairs on his knees, but because there were people, including a couple of women around that witnessed it, he stands up and he goes, "Well, good thing I didn't get hurt."
And so that's what you felt like with this woman. You're like, no, no, I'm good. I'm good. We're good.
Well, to a point is the best I could do. And anyhow, I started to laugh after she got up and left. And I'm laying there on the ground and I'm laughing. I can't stop laughing. And it spreads a little bit. Some other people start laughing as well. And that was it. I didn't have any kind of magical healing moment there, but it was enough and it was enjoyable enough. And there was just something about it where I wanted to go deeper. Uh, and so and I had things that I wanted to heal, health problems that had been building up. I had this chronic back pain that just not really improved much for since 2006 when I had gotten into an accident. I had high blood pressure since my early 20s, and then at this point I was 37, 38 years old. I had this chronic like arthritis that had developed in my knees where when I'd be sitting down, if I sat for more than a few minutes, I would have to straighten my legs out just to relieve the stiffness that was setting in. So these were all things that I wanted to fix if I could. Uh, it was at least some additional motivation to explore healing. So I set up a private session with that woman, Ina, that had worked on me, and her partner, Jose, who was one of the other facilitators at the light portal. They came to my apartment. We set up a mattress on the floor and she worked on me like digging into my fascia for like an hour and a half straight. Which I guess now the sessions they do these days, she's going for maybe even sometimes 2, 3 hours on a person. Anyhow, we came out of that and I'm feeling kind of very light, but also a little confused after her work because it was so intense. The three of us sit and have a conversation. She's talking about ancestral trauma and she's talking about spirit guides, and these concepts were all new to me. I didn't have any base point, no reference. I wasn't like a disbeliever in it, but I wasn't a believer either. So she's like, your father's side, I saw the anger, fear, and your mother's side was fear and sadness. And I saw this jaguar spirit guide that had been with you since you were 11. And I saw this Native American shaman guide. She was even a little hesitant or spooked about telling me about the latter guide. The next part of the private session was like a meet your guides. And this is where her partner, Jose, serves Hape medicine to the participant.
Yes.
Yeah, so he had his Taipei, for I'm sure you probably know what Hape is, but many people
Yes.
don't, right? So you've talked about it on your show before?
Well, go ahead and explain it because I don't think a lot of people are really familiar with it.
Sure. So people think of it as shamanic snuff, and it's made by the shamans from these indigenous tribes, at least the real stuff is, and they have a very, very long manual, painstaking process they go through to make it. And they make it and they do special prayers over it. They use wild tobacco with some other ingredients from nature that have something psychoactive within them. A lot of times it's the bark from a sunu tree, maybe some other things. And so you take it in the nose, usually. Some people do it in the mouth too, but generally, most people take it in the nose. And it kind of gives you a blast, like a high vibration, and people use it a lot for clearing energy, stagnant energy, and centering and getting into a meditation. And it's very powerful for clearing dense energy because it works on such a physical level. So I'd never taken Hape before this. He had his Tepe. I can show you the Tepe I have. If you want to see it, I have it right
Sure.
here. So this is my Tepe here. It almost looks like a boomerang, right?
Yes.
The
Yeah.
powerful thing about this sucker is that, so with the Tepe, for those who don't know, one person's putting it in their nose, the other one's blowing it. That's how you would do it in a ceremonial context, like we're talking about in this private session. So this tape is super special because I can, if I just barely put any pressure at all blowing here, the whole thing just shoots out perfectly right into the spot. Like, whoosh.
Bullseye. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so aerodynamic for Hape. It's unbelievable. He serves me this Hape, and he puts a lot into his hand, but I didn't know like what's a little or what's a lot when it comes to this stuff. He serves it to me, and now my eyes are watering, my nose is burning, and I'm like, what did I just do here? He gets up, walks behind me, takes out a couple of maracas, and starts shaking them in my ears. So this would normally be the point where my mind would have spoken up and I would have started mentally processing what had happened so far. Like, well, this happened here and this means this and
Yes.
so on and so
Yeah.
forth. But he's got these maracas rattling in my ears. So he deliberately did that so that I couldn't do that. So I couldn't think. There's too much noise and sound. And he starts to chant, not like a rehearsed sort of chant, but just sort of a chant that came alive in the moment for him. Something starts happening in my head, and I next thing I know, I'm chanting myself. And at first, it's just not too nothing much, but then some sort of force starts coming alive within me, something really deep and powerful starts rising up. I'm sensing it, but as this powerful force is rising up, it's pushing out some really, really horribly sticky, nasty trauma, like a lot of it coming up, so that this energy can clear its way through.
Yes.
And so when I was finished with the chant, I threw up into a bucket and was laying on the floor for hours, like just feeling sick from the release.
This is really interesting because I get a lot of people telling me how Hape was wonderful for them and it was a pleasant experience. My first experience with Hape was very much like yours, where it was extremely powerful and that I wasn't ready for the power that it packed for me. And other people in the room had it and they had some sort of pleasant experience. I sure didn't. I had a junkyard tornado going on in my entire body. There I couldn't get to a bucket fast enough. And it was really powerful. So the fact that you had this experience that was similar to the one that I had actually is kind of neat. So please proceed.
Well, I was at the point now where I'm laying on the floor and I don't even want to move to the couch a few feet away and lay on that because the floor seems safer. And when that trauma had been rising up through my system, the chant, I remember it was almost like I was screaming like away, away, away. And
Yeah.
Jose and Ina heard me and thought I was chanting Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahweh. Well, I was in my mind's eye, I was like, away, get this the hell away from me. This, whatever this is, I want it to stop. I want it to be over. I want it to end. So I'm laying on the floor. Finally, I start feeling okay. And I think to myself, I am never going to do this again. The next morning, I wake up and all the arthritic pain in my knees is gone. Never came back. So I had to rethink my strong commitment to not doing that again.
Your lifelong ban, Right.
Yeah, I had to redraw the lines. So I still didn't do it for a while, like a few weeks. But I ended up doing Hape again when I was at an ayahuasca ceremony.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we've reviewed your life here, all the way from, let's just say, a youth misspent, being bored in school and unfulfilled, going out and kind of quickly figuring out the financial system in a way that really kind of benefited you. And then all of a sudden, you're faced here with stuff that's much deeper than anything that you'd ever been faced with before. Uh, Never had to face yourself this way, either your physical health or your emotional health or your spiritual health in a way like this. And it's really staring you in the face for the first time. This really does feel pivotal. And that it changes the course of what your actual values are, what you think is important for you.
That's a an interesting way of putting that. I had never heard it in that exact light before. Thank you. Yes, it was bigger than anything I had really ever felt before. I mean, aside from the cathartic, energetic opening, awakening that I had experienced for myself, that led me to realize I need to get the hell out of Dodge from this corporate gig. Uh, at this point with the Hape, it's 11 years after that had happened. And I had not had another beautiful, cathartic release or experience that was even comparable to what had happened 11 years ago. And then all of a sudden, this thing happens. And so I decided I'm going to do some exploration. Now, I'm going to try some different medicines and work with some different indigenous shamans. And since I'm in this place where a lot of them are traveling up from the Amazon, it seemed like a great opportunity. Uh, so I sat in a well, I guess I'll go through a few things. I did LSD for the first time, and I went to the light portal when I was doing the LSD, or like a few hours into the experience. And when we did the breath work, I had the experience where I became my breath, and I became the breath of everyone around me, and it was so incredible. It was like no matter when I decided to start or stop my breath, all the other breath just automatically synced up to whatever flow I was doing. It was really incredible. So I did that, and then I tried family constellations uh, with this guy who uh, th- that was super strange experience for me. But I just remember he kind of created this. Because there's different ways of doing family constellations, right? Just that whole idea is like you're essentially creating an environment where you can have conversations with, people from your family and whatnot to resolve conflict. But I was in this family constellations environment, and I remember the facilitator said, "Okay, Bjorn, you come over and you stand here, and you're assuming this particular role now." And I remember when I stepped into that spot, I felt all this electricity and energy shooting through my legs. My whole legs were shaking, like being in the energy of that environment of doing the family constellations. And that whole thing was super powerful. For some reason, out of all of us, the instructor decided that we didn't have time to do my family, and he more used me to help facilitate the other people in the group. Then I went and I tried Bufo. I went into this Bufo session, never having done it before, and they put a mattress on the floor and they said, "Okay, so you're gonna inhale, 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 then throw your arms straight up in the air, fall back onto this mattress, and then we're gonna do some work on you when you're under." And it was a partner scenario. So it was me and this gal, Julia. I would go do my 15, 20-minute session, and she would do hers, and we each got two. I remember when went back and I went out and into myself, I started to feel this sense like someone was digging a fingernail right into the center of my forehead. Really intense, hurt like hell. And then the whole world exploded into fragments of blue light, and all of a sudden I'm singing this song from my spot where I'm laying on this bed. This song starts moving through me, and it's so euphoric. I'm singing in a language I didn't know, and my vocal range in that moment during that experience opened into like much higher than I've ever been able to sing, and much lower than I'd been ever able to sing as an adult. Uh, and the energy was so palpable. I remember one of the facilitators told me I had to stop working and just sit there and listen to it when you were singing and just absorb the teachings of it. And ever since that particular experience, I've been able to, like, my vocal range has stayed open, stayed expanded since then. And then people started to hear about how I could sing and do these shamanic songs and chants, and I would get requests. I was going to ayahuasca ceremonies. This guy was in town, Panshin Nima, from the Shipibo, and during like the times when they would allow the participants to sort of creatively express themselves here and there, I was getting requests to sing and to do energy work on people, and this kept developing until I eventually actually got invited to become a facilitator for the light portal where I had originally started.
Wonderful.
Uh, and that was amazing for a while. I enjoyed it tremendously. Mm, but ultimately, I sort of hit a threshold where I needed like some time just to myself. I don't know if you would call it depression, but I just had this intense sadness started coming up for me in these waves where I didn't really couldn't do anything other than deal with it for a couple of months. So I just, I quit the healing work I was doing with the light portal and just focused on myself. It's like all day long, every day, this sadness would come through in waves, really intense waves, and I was doing the best I could to deal with it. I was using Hape and other medicines, and I was doing whatever I could. And then I met my next teacher, this guy Ben, who had trained with Shipibo for like 20 years, and but he was a French guy. And I started working with him on accident. I was going in to get a chiropractic adjustment. My chiropractor was out of town. They said, "Well, Ben's here. He's the sacral cranial sacral therapist.
Yes.
And here's his background. Would you like to do a session with him?" I'm like, sure. Well, what they didn't mention was that this guy had trained with the Shipibo, and so what the session ended up being was this guy standing over me, chanting for the most part, for most of the session, which is ironic, especially because it was me. And and I remember after the session, uh, I left to go across town to the Onyx. They had these like convenience stores all over town, but I was going home and there was an Onyx on the other side of town, and I wanted a Gatorade, so I stopped there. I'm exiting the store, and who do I see in the parking lot but the cranial sacral therapist I just had the appointment with? And he stands there and he's looking at me. I look at him, and he says, "See, I told you." I have no idea what he means, but and so I did more sessions with him after that. And then he invited me to sit in an ayahuasca ceremony that he facilitated, which I did. And and this is when I started to really understand the real power of sound and intention when it comes to medicine work. Sitting in this ayahuasca ceremony, I spent the whole night pretty much just pissed off and angry. I felt for some reason that I was being scammed because I was watching this guy do his ceremony, and it was not like the Shipibo ceremonies that I had grown accustomed to, with very specific ways of going about it. It was like he was just improvising what he was doing beyond just the Icaros themselves. And it didn't seem like there was any method to the madness. And I thought, what did I get myself into? This is not the place for me. I don't like this. This went on all night. Right before sunrise, he comes over to me. He sits down. He says, I'm going to do some work on you. He tells me, just sit up straight, breathe, root to crown. And well, that was pretty much it. And so I was doing that, and he started chanting. I start feeling a little different. And then he finishes and he says, give me your hands, put them out like this. So I do. And then he blows on them. I still feel it's about the same. And he looks at my hands again, and he kind of cocks his head to the side. He goes, kind of zooms in a little bit. And then just a gentle and kaboom, like it just an earth-shattering, energetic blast like opens around me, like all my senses open at the same time: sight, hearing, taste, smell. Uh, yeah, like everything changes in the room. And I start laughing, and he leans over and he says, "Life is life is a game." So to me, that was so indicative and proved to me, like, wow, you can take ayahuasca and it can be powerful, but if you have someone there that really understands the energy, what you can do with that ayahuasca is exponentially multiplied. Uh, and so he offered to work with me on doing a plant spirit diet, which I agreed to do. Uh, so, for those that don't know, it's common in the Shipibo, almost a rite of passage in a way where people will work with plants over a period of time to absorb teachings from them. So you generally have a strict diet. You are not supposed to have sex and things like that during the diet. And so I did this diet for 3 months. And a diet can be done a couple of ways. Most people, what they'll do is they'll drink like a tea from the plant, and that's how they take the plant. I never took the physical plant. It was all energetic. The maestro and I would meet over Zoom every 2, 3 weeks, and he would do a new chant and give me this chant, and I would listen to this chant every day and do a grounding ritual with mapacho afterward. About a month into doing that and working on this diet, I went for a walk one night, and I was just out kind of in the village where I lived. I started to feel this warm sensation in my upper chest, and then this type of opening, like like the petals on a flower all opening at once, and I'm stepped into incredible euphoria, like this feelings of unconditional love just blasting through my whole body, and uh the most amazing combinations of colors everywhere, just in the air, wherever I looked. I was falling in love with whatever I looked at. I, if I saw a sign on the road, I would fall in love with the sign. If I saw a tree, I was falling in love with the tree. I was stumbling around like a drunk, I was so drunk on the feelings of like love and ecstasy. And I had to remind myself I never actually physically took a substance for this. And it was like an energetic rebirth. It was so wonderful, you know.
Yes.
And that was kind of one of my last peak experiences before I came back to the States. I had to help with my father because he had some really bad health issues, and so I was needed back in the States.
Yeah.
So I came back having had all these experiences, needing a way to integrate everything. And that's when I started learning about biofield tuning and qigong and developed a daily practice that worked, that I could use, you know, in a modern type of an environment. So a big key for me was that even though I knew how to meditate and I knew I could meditate for, you know, more than an hour and I did all the time, that I wanted a way to be able to connect to a meditative state without having to rely on my energy levels or ability to focus at any given point. And so when I discovered the power of biofield tuning and sort of sound therapy, it was like a game changer because I could listen to a biofield tuning, and no matter how wound up my mind was, it didn't matter because if I listened to it long enough, it would just sort of steal my mind, and those thoughts would eventually settle down, and I would slip into slower, deeper, more soothing states of the brain. And so I started just as a receiver and I went through hundreds of sessions and then eventually it was like, well, if I want to go further with this and get into it, I'm actually going to need to go through their program to learn how to do it myself. So I got certified in it as a modality and eventually started I realized that what started happening then was I organically, like when you're doing biofield tuning, what happens, it's very common. So you go out and you're moving like essentially a fork through someone's field or what's representing their field. And within that field, you'll feel all kinds of different textures and things that make it difficult to move through. So what a lot of practitioners do in biofield tuning is they'll take out different forks or different instruments to try and like shake up the field so that they can move through it and bring everything to center. But I discovered that I didn't need to do that. All I needed to do was use my voice to sort of hack the field as I was moving through it with the fork. But when I was new and first starting out, a couple of years ago now, wow, time flies. And I had to do a lot of like practice sessions on people. uh, People were having like really, really strong reactions to my work. Like there were several people who literally were up all night purging after I did a biofield tuning session on them. Like, I mean, it was like as high of a rate as being in an ayahuasca ceremony, people purging. And this wasn't supposed to happen. I was told, oh no, it's very rare that someone would purge I don't know what term they use, vomit, whatever, from biofield tuning, but it was happening to me. So eventually I
Yeah.
learned that I could just use my voice as the primary instrument and use the forks more of as a support. And this enabled me to shorten the sessions while also making them more potent and less taxing. So then I'm able to do more with less and and sort of evolve that way.
So at this point, your life is thoroughly changed. It's changed
Yeah.
changed from kind of middle American trying to figure out who you are, very much what so many people go through, to having seen things in a spirit realm and discovered something about your own innate abilities that you can no longer ignore. It's something that you didn't really ever realize that you had this kind of power or access to a skill, a special thing within you. And now like your whole what you want to be in this world has completely changed because you've through various different medicines and practices and shamanic experiences, you've seen things that you now can no longer ignore. And so you start developing things and you've got this primal path program that you have developed. Can you talk about how all of this led into this and what primal path is?
Sure. So the primal path, I was looking for an acronym that could represent the stages of transformation and I guess you could say purpose. Is it sort of represents purpose in a way where PATH, each letter stands for something. The P stands for pain, which is that we cannot move forward and experience an awakening if we don't acknowledge the pain and allow ourselves to feel it that we're carrying. The A stands for awakening. Is once you've acknowledged the pain and released, you may have some euphoric experiences, you may or moments of insight that you weren't having before. And it may be an incredible out of body experience. It may be something more subtle, but it's an awakening. A lot of people get stuck at this stage, and the spiritual ego gets comes in and it says, "Well, this is as good as it's going to get, and find we need to lock this down and re-experience this." But the next stage of the PATH is the T. It stands for transformation, and it comes from daily practice, establishing something that you do every day, so that instead of having these random experiences every so often, you can learn how to embody them into your daily life. I guess you could call that mindfulness, right? And then the H stands for heritage, because once you get to the point where you're experiencing your whole life in a new way, part of that evolution is to learn how to share that with other people. And that's the last part of the integration, like what's the metaphor, the guy up on a mountaintop and then he comes back down, teaches the people. And so these things together are the path, and it's primal because the way I work and how I use to help people is I'm working with the primordial aspects of the brain with using sound and kind of tapping into deeper rhythms and deeper patterns that
Yeah.
influence things in a in a great way. So a lot of it is, you could call it ancestral work,
Yes.
going deep and connecting to the brain with things that are were evolutionarily wired to connect to, sounds, and with in the case of my podcast, stories that it's like when humans were first started sort of separating from the other animals, we did that because we learned how to teach each other things using stories. And so it's like we're already wired with this incredible capacity to learn through stories, yet we spend so much time trying to teach people things and lecture in a way that doesn't doesn't have a story element to it. So just like looking to use stories and sounds to help people create shifts in those deeper patterns so that when you do it that way, it can make it an enjoyable, it can make healing an enjoyable thing. So people don't have to go through the harrowing experiences on their body that I did, but they can still make shifts that they need to tap into their own inner superpower.
I love the acronym because I'm kind of following it from, where I've come in my own journey. And I'm sure that what you do really helps people kind of awaken to their own sense of power, their own sense of depth and authenticity. Can you talk about your practice and how people benefit from what you do?
Sure. A lot of when people first come to me, it's usually something regarding their emotional state. So sometimes it's they've been dealing with grief from like a loved one passing, but they just can't seem to move through it. Or it's there's a family member that or someone in the workplace that is triggering them and they don't want to keep feeling like a victim or so reactive. And so they come to me because they're dealing with these things. And then usually after one session, there's a market difference in how they immediately are perceiving their world. This one woman, for example, she came to me and it was a grief situation, and she said she'd had a successful business for years, but she just couldn't connect with her creativity anymore. And so we did a session, moved a lot of energy, and after that, she said she had to sleep for like 2 hours, but when she woke up, she felt very significant difference, and and her creativity came back, and now we're working on exploring a longer term program for her. Uh, there
Wonderful.
was one guy actually. Yeah, he's a fellow podcaster. He uh he wanted to do a session. He was feeling like slightly blocked on one side where, because he'd been meditating for a long time and he was a mindfulness coach and all this. It's very common. People that come to me are often like coaches or healers or that sort of thing. And he was like sensing like, wow, my energy flows really well through one side, but not through the other. And so we did a session, and he felt the energy was flowing well. And then within a couple of days after that, his podcast suddenly jumped from like unranked to like number 4 in the spirituality category in the US. Uh, and it stayed there for I don't know 2 or 3 weeks, and that's out of like 300 and some thousand podcasts. And his show was new in 2024. It wasn't like I don't know how to explain it really, but there's always things that happen in very strange divine timing when we do this work.
Amazing. Amazing. And it's amazing when you just unlock a few things, what amazing things can happen internally and, just throughout our lives, our careers and everything. And I'm really interested in hearing you in the work that you do. And can you do some of this work right now with
Hmm.
me?
Yeah. So just tapping into the energy here. There's a lot of charge that we need to release to really relax into this. So I'm just going to start with the tuning forks here, and I'm going to run through 4 frequencies and then do a little chant with the
Okay.
drum. So we're going to start with 144 hertz. This will start with some of the more denser feelings. Whew. So just try and relax your body. Just melt into your own sense of breath. Bono e mito. Pano ano ano. Pano ano. Pano. Wano, 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 hano, hako. Wazanisha hakawa behewa koete pahane isahasha. Bono minga no e mano, mano ingo. Bono e no ro ambu Ningara sundara mano no Mira wana menga tanda we Kara wana mono we Wana wo mano we no te no amanana me Kana wana mane sano tane Gara manara wana wana go we Ponga sanora manora mondo tarawana nego ringara meno wondo tarawana mando Pono e wana mano ture mingo no masone Tamora wenia Marawana mano Pono me onsono nengara chanarira lura wana marawana mara tengara sono ne mono wara pandara wara wamanira wine
no e mon masande no te mande no one karawana mono no mo so ne shora barawana marawana made winde Mingare sano te karawana mono e winga sano tam barawana wana nam Gonna modero e gono turiu.
And then we'll run through very quickly back through the frequencies. Ooh. Ah. Oh. Okay, we're good on 144. And 417. And 528. Ooh. 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 Oh. All right.
That was an amazing experience.
Thank you.
The the amount of visualization that I personally had in everything that you did. Can you explain what just happened?
So when I make these sounds as a direct channel, so my primary guide appears to me as a blue dragon, a blue water dragon, and sort of the alignment of how that works is they serve as the type of conductor for all the other guides, which is a mix of about a third angelics, a third dragons, and another third of an assortment of light beings, including a wide variety of different shamans from uh, different lineages. And so when the sound comes through, the blue dragon is sort of conducting what sound is coming through at any given time. Is it one guide? Is it a combination of guides? And then with my body, I feel the various emotional charges that releasing as we move through, going through my body, kind of like static electricity.
Yeah. And this experience for me was one that placed me what I felt was in a much more authentic healing and natural space and very grounding for me in the things that I saw and the experience that I had. And, so then the work that you do is to help people integrate that and to consistently stay in that space of authenticity and healing.
Yeah, it's helping people to find their own superpower expression and then learn how to use that to heal themselves and eventually to bring that forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for doing that. It's an
Thank
amazing
you.
experience. Yeah. Yeah. This medicine and how you've learned to do it in your life, what is it that you want to end up like doing with this in the next 10 years? Where are you taking this?
God only knows. For now, I'm just seeing where the energy leads. At some point I would like to get back into doing some more traveling and maybe even doing some work with uh, plant medicine in combination with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Doing maybe retreats and that kind of thing
Hmm.
where lots of people are involved and yeah.
Yeah, I miss kind of the community aspect of some of the work.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, our civilization is going through a major shift right now. And it's my opinion in watching all of this, we've come to a space where it's almost like there is the unavoidable realization right now that we've lost something very important in our civilization. These things being a real depth driven spirituality, a unity, a community, a sense of mission in what it is that we actually are beyond making sure that we can pay our rent and taxes. And this is something that many, many individuals are really, really struggling with. I have several clients right now, incredibly hardworking, smart, well educated people who are in their middle career going, I'm not going anywhere. I don't feel like I'm doing anything. I don't even know how to. If I lost my job now, I'd be homeless in a month. You know, this kind of worry and pain for people, if it were 1975 right now, would be living nice, would be doing really well because they're good people, they're hardworking people, but it just feels like there's so much that's kind of missing. You know, based upon your own observation of where our society has come and what it needs, what is it that you would see would be a healing thing for our civilization to begin focusing on, for individuals, for groups, for the whole?
Hmm. I think the people as in general really crave authenticity now, maybe more than they ever have because we've become so bombarded with information and messages and businesses trying to direct our attention, and people are quite fed up with that experience. And so it seems like there's this mass shift sort of underway of people looking to reclaim and rediscover whatever it is that is their own authentic way of being, and to surround themselves with people and messages that actually truly resonate with their sense of being. But one thing that's kind of missing in the world right now is the local community. You know, there are a lot of people that are very still connected to maybe their immediate family members, and maybe they're quite connected to sort of the a sort of an outlier member or outlier layer of contacts, but they're missing the connection with the people like down the street or at the local businesses that people used to have and used to rely on. as a way to integrate and interact with other members of society. We stay in our houses, we don't go out and do much. And so it would be helpful, I think, if there were more businesses and companies to sprout up that offered alternatives to the types of institutions that people have started to reject.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if I want to go, let's say, sit in a sauna or um, do a cold plunge or something, I don't really have anywhere around here I could go. I have to drive like probably 40 minutes to go somewhere to do that. And that's someplace that I might actually want to go. And I might meet some people doing that, but I don't have that option. But yet, I go uptown and there are several bars. But most of the people I know are starting to lean more and more away from alcohol. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Me too. And the more of this spirit work that I do, the less good alcohol tastes to me. It's interesting how it just, I never set out to necessarily, I didn't necessarily have what I felt was a negative relationship with alcohol. But I now go 5 months and then go, gosh, how long has it been? It's been 5 months since I've had, I just never even thought of it. I
yeah,
think a lot more people are getting there.
yeah.
And here's where I tell you all the things that I love about you. What I love about you is your openness and the connection that you have with spirit in the way that you talk. The openness and the willingness to speak about your own life, the the things that you've accomplished with such a sense of humility, such a sense of honesty and authenticity in the way that you express it. I love how you help people dive deeper into themselves in a way that they may have a struggle accessing on their own. I love that you're having an incredible effect on people, one person at a time, in an incredibly profound way. I love the way that you shared this incredible gift that you have with me. I love that you're one other person that had a really unfortunate first experience with Hape.
And I love it now. It's my favorite.
Yeah, I need to get there. And I love that you're so willing to share with the world this wonderful breakthrough that you've had, particularly coming from a place that you may not be necessarily known for this kind of spiritual depth. And so, yeah, thank you for coming and sharing all of this stuff on my podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciated the manner in which you have sort of reflected on my experiences and giving me shed some new light for me on how some of those experiences connect in ways that I haven't thought about.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, I've been doing therapy for a long time. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
The easiest thing is just to go to my website. I have everything there, bluedragonhealing.net, and there's a resources page there. It has links to my Insight Timer teacher bio and my podcast and some free downloads, and then the site itself has got my larger body of work.
Brilliant. Well, thank you again. And please don't forget to like and subscribe to the Mindful Mutiny podcast because we're growing and it's really an exciting thing. And remember, in a lifetime, there's more decisions than anybody can count. Living the highest form of yourself is the most important thing that you can possibly do. Make incredible, positive, risky, and bold decisions to be the highest version of you. Now go be something great.